know which one's yours.
This one's mine.
That one's yours? Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate everyone coming here tonight. We do want to have this a fairly informal chat. You feel free to interrupt us anytime. We're going to be seeing a lot of terms that maybe you don't know. We've tried to kind of bring it down to a level that everyone can understand and enjoy, but if at any point in time we're like, we just said something weird, just like, what's that? Cool?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, we just want to tell you a little bit about who we are.
Before we do that, thank you all for coming. We've been making this presentation for the last couple of weeks, and it's really fun. It's really fun for us to look through all of our photos. And sometimes you show your photos to your friends, and they're like, "Okay, like I wasn't there. I don't really care." But you all came because you care. So this is really fun for us, and I hope it's fun for you as well.
This is the vibe Thatcher brings to everything.
Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah, so, collective awe. There was a time that I didn't have a beard. So I did grow up really, really close to the water. A place called Burn Point, which is in Conception Bay North, and I absolutely fell in love with boats and all that kind of stuff, which is why I ended up being a naval engineer. But I didn't really like fishing that much. I kind of just enjoyed like being out on the water. I just didn't really like killing things. Nothing with a face anyway. So I often just liked going out. And this is actually a photo that my dad took, who's right here. We just went out looking at icebergs. And that's just kind of who I was. I just liked being on the water. And that's just who I ended up being and still am today, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and I grew up in Colorado, which, if you're not familiar with, is a landlocked state. So I did not grow up on the water. I grew up next to rocks. But I did move to Newfoundland in 2017. And my dad, before we moved here, I did a sailing course with him in Florida. So I am a certified sailor, but please don't hire me. I don't really like sailing and I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, so this boat, some of you might recognize. I bought my first boat 2016 in Lewisport. It was called Windrifter at the time. Sailed that around for about 8 years or so. I was in the other yacht club, the Sunset Key. And then I kind of felt like I was outgrowing the boat. I wanted something that was a little bit faster, not necessarily for the sensation of being fast, but I wanted something with a bit more range, something that can go further in a day. And that's when Enchanté, the boat that you all, of course, know, became sailed. So I ended up picking Enchanté up and then selling that boat to Jim Wise, who I think might be here tonight. Yeah, there we are. Yeah. So the boat ended up coming to the yacht club anyway. And you can talk to Jim. I'm sure we're going to get a presentation at some point in time, but he's in the process of converting that over to fully electric, which is really neat. Yeah, you're braver than I am. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's my quick little boating history.
Yeah, my boating history is pretty short. I didn't really sail as a child, and I didn't really sail as a teenager. We were in Colorado, which has no water, so we had a little Hobie cat that we sometimes got on and jumped off into the water like a little trampoline. But my dad had just bought a boat, I think is why we were doing the sailing course, or he was going to buy a boat. So we went and learned how to sail in Florida. And then I've done a couple trips with him on his boat. And I was on Trevor's old boat once for a little day trip, and I'd never been on Windrifter before this trip. So that's my sailing history.
Yeah, we'll just talk quickly about our rock climbing history too. I started climbing in 2006 at a small gym called Walnuts, and immediately started climbing outside. That's what climbing to me was. Some people climb inside gyms their entire career, which is perfectly fine, but I was really wanting to go outside and do the adventure life. So this is one of my first climbs ever outside. It happened to be in a place called Squamish, British Columbia, which ended up being a place I used to go to so many times. Yeah, and I climbed there until, well, I still climb. But we met around 2021 or so. But yeah, before we get into that, your climbing history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Colorado is known for the climbing. They have incredible rock there, and people travel from all over the world to climb. I did not start climbing there, however. I thought climbing was very intimidating. So when I moved to Newfoundland, my brother had a friend who invited us to a prime and climb at Walnuts. If you don't know what that is, it's when you go at night after hours and you drink beer and they have staff to do the ropes for you. So you're drinking and climbing. And I went and I thought it was the most fun ever. And so my friend and I and Max, my brother, did the intro course the next week. And our instructor was actually Joel Harvey, who is one of the owners of the Cove Bouldering Gym. So yeah, I started climbing, every now and then. I wasn't super into it because it was expensive. But in 2019, I started working at Walnuts, which means you get a free membership. So then I could climb all the time. And shortly after, I met Trevor. For me, it was always about getting to sleep on that thing. I just wanted to do that. Like, I wanted to be on the wall. I wanted to sleep on the portal edge. And so I started climbing outside and learned that there was actually a lot of things you had to know before you could sleep on one of these. So took the steps to do that and found a friend who would do it with me.
We see some people standing up there. There's some seats up here. If you guys want to shift around, feel free to be brave and come on up. Hey, Owen, come on up, Owen. We got a seat right here for you. So the word belay, we need to do a little bit of terms here. The word belay, it means the person who's holding the ropes as you're climbing. That's the person that's in charge of the safety system. So when you have a partnership with somebody who you climb with, it's then called a relationship. So that's what we have. We are relationship partners. We started climbing together. This is a photo in Squamish, which is one of my favorite places to climb. We were actually just reminiscing on this climb over there last night. Was it last night or the night before?
Night.
Yeah. This was in Yosemite Valley when we had to bail on a climb. Bailing on a climb means that you can't finish it. So then you had to figure out how to get back down. And that was pretty epic. We considered staying the night because the climbing got really, really, really soaking wet. There was a waterfall that we found, and we didn't want to climb through that. So then we had to bail off it. But that was one of our earlier bails, and that's a skill that we'll get into. We also climbed in Joshua Tree in Las Vegas. We always get this list mixed up. Squamish 3 or 4 times. We don't actually
Squamish a handful of times.
Yeah.
We climbed in Yosemite, obviously.
Yosemite, yeah. And anyway, we just started doing these larger expeditions together. Something that you would basically spend the entire year training for, and you just put your finger up, which means you want to stay.
So Trevor and I started coaching together, and we didn't really know each other. But Trevor and I are both very yes people. So on maybe our first shift, I don't know, we were coaching.
Might have been the second one.
Maybe the second one. And I was like, Trevor, I think I want to go to Joshua Tree. Like, do you want to go with me? And he was like, yeah. And we booked our flights the next day. We didn't know each other. Unfortunately, that was 2019. That was the end of 2019. And then we were supposed to go in April or May of 2020, but COVID happened and we couldn't go. But that was, that's kind of like our relationship in a nutshell. One of us has an idea and the other one's like, absolutely, let's do it. Let's make it happen.
That's a lesson. Always say yes. So this is the climbing gym that we train at. It's a relatively new gym. Of course, there is Walnuts. We all love Walnuts. We do spend a fair bit of time at Walnuts too, but this is a relatively new gym that our friends built. It's called the Cove Cafe and Bouldering. And yes, the word cafe is in the name because half of it is a cafe. The other half is a climbing gym. And as you sat down, you might be sitting on it right now, or you managed to pick it up as you were sitting. You all have a free coffee from the Cove. So thanks to the people at the Cove. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Cove. Yeah, these are the, there you go. Great. These are the owners right here. And you might recognize this guy right here. Yeah, this is Bob. Bob's one of the owners of the Cove Bouldering. So we started climbing together for maybe about 4 years. And then we decided like this relationship is working really, really well. We were doing climbs at the time, things that take like 12 hours, like a day, you'd pack a lunch kind of thing. And then we decided, you know, it's time to like amp this up a little bit more and start doing things that's called, I hate this term, big wall climbing, which basically means it's going to take longer than a day to do the thing. And as soon as you do something that takes longer than a day, the complexity Like there's a limit to it, but the complexity goes up big time because all of a sudden you've got to bring breakfast, dinner, supper, sleeping, water, pillows, blankets, and toilet paper. So yeah, we took a course in Squamish from a professional climber. Is that him there? No, he wouldn't get in the Port Ledge with me. Yeah, we took, what was his name? Jordan Cannon. And he taught us how to do systems like that. So this is us with that portaledge, practicing it near the ground, how to set it up, how the hauling system works. And then we started training big time inside. So this is also in the climbing gym. We started doing a big exercise routine. Took us about a year before we felt like we were ready to do our big wall. And as we were doing it, we're big social media people. So then CBC ended up getting in contact with us and said, hey, this sounds kind of cool. Can we do a story on you guys? So we ended up getting interviewed by Jeremy Eaton at the time.
His name is still Jeremy Eaton, also now. Not only do you have to train your body a lot, but you also have to learn the systems, which are so complex. So I have a friend, also now who is friends with Trevor, who has done a lot of big wall climbing in Yosemite and also in Quebec. And he was kind of like our little mentor, and we sent him a lot of videos and asked him like what we were doing. And he told us to go online to a course called VDiff. And it was like being in school. It was like an entire university course of how to big wall climb from like beginning to end, everything you need to know in between. So we would sit down like a couple times a week and do our course and then review our course and then make a list of everything. And then we'd bring it outside and try all the systems outside with like a backup system. And then we would not have the backup and we'd do it for real. And it's very, very in-depth.
Yeah, that is something that we kind of like to do. We like to have what's called a beginner's mindset a lot and not being afraid to do something wrong the first time. A lot of people have a lot of trepidation about failing and not doing it right. We've kind of stripped that away quite a bit. I just learned to ski this year for the first time at age 40, right? So I wasn't expecting applause for that. But yeah, and I went up there with my debit card and was like, yes, sir, one ski, please. And you'd be surprised about what you can learn when you care a little bit less of what other people think. So this was our first attempt at a big wall. This is it right here. There's a banana right here for scale. This whole thing is about 3,000 feet tall. Our plan was to take 8 days. We had 10 days of food, I think, and we wanted to climb the whole thing in 8 days. That's a picture of us during our climb. 5 days? I don't know, whatever it was. It sounds more dramatic if I say 8 and 10, so we're going to go with that. We ended up not getting the entire way up. We got about halfway, and we were going to run out of water. We were climbing in about 31-degree temperatures, which is certainly not what we're used to climbing here. So we were going through a little bit more water than we wanted to. We had budgeted 4 liters per person per day. Ended up doing 5.25 liters. So at that point in time, we were like, we're going to run out before we get to the top. So then we decided to turn around and head back down, and we're going to try again next year, right?
Right, yes, absolutely. And then we didn't because Donald Trump got elected as president, and we said we don't want to support the United States economy. So we decided we wanted to do something either in Canada or in a different country. Because, Yosemite's going to be there. We can climb Yosemite when Trump is not around. So there were... Yes, good job, guys, for applauding that. So yeah, we had a couple different places on our list. Madagascar has a really cool big wall that we were thinking about. And then we were like, well, what about Devil's Bay? Like, Devil's Bay is in Newfoundland. Trevor had just bought a boat, and we were like, what if we sail? What if we sail down to Devil's Bay and then do this climbing trip? And I think as soon as we said that, we were like, yeah, that's it. Obviously, it's written in the stars.
The story just wrote itself.
Yeah. This was us. As soon as we realized we had to bail, we were very sad. And then like 1 minute after this, we're like, all right, we'll come back next year. And then we haven't gone back.
Yet.
Yes.
Yet is a great word.
Yeah, and that's Trevor with his boat.
Yet is a great word we like to use. I just want to point out Thatcher's childhood stuffed bunny.
It's wearing a harness, by the way.
It was wearing a harness that came the entire way up the wall with us. Okay, so bought a new boat. That's great. We've all most of us have bought a new boat here.
We've all bought a new boat.
We've all been there. So as we buy a new boat, there's always things that you want to do with it. So Enchanté, wonderful boat owned by many wonderful people, but it hasn't been sailed overnight in quite a number of years. And obviously the mission plan was for us to do a lot of overnight sailing. So I had a lot of things to figure out and to upgrade. I made a habit of bringing my friends to clean every single corner of the boat I could, and then I'll take you for a sail. So a few things that I did do, I put in an entire freshwater system, right? The freshwater system that was there was relatively old, getting a little moldy, so I ripped it all out from the fill cap all the way to the taps and the pumps and everything. All that was replaced. I put in a new autopilot and I messed it up, so I had to get a couple machinist friends from work to come in and re-tap some holes for me. But again, failure is not a bad thing. Put in AIS integration with NEMA. I put in a couple new batteries, a new sail stack lazy jack system that was put in, and I built a new cradle for it with, I'm sure, is the biggest envy of every single boat that's out there. If you've all seen it, it's about twice the size of everyone else's cradle. And then, of course, I had to get Jerry to give the sniff test. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't go to the South Coast without Jerry smelling your boat before you leave. So I did a couple of shakedown sails. Since we were headed to the South Coast, I wanted to cut that part of the trip out. So I did sail the boat from here over to the St. John's Harbor for a couple of reasons. One, to make it a little bit shorter, and it was easier to load the boat with all the food and stuff. This guy right here, who's over there, it is Mr. Garvin, who, of course, you all know his parents have been here for quite a bit of time. Yeah, and here we are now in St. John's Harbor. You want to talk about food?
Sure, yeah, okay. So we decided to go on this trip, and then we said we need crew, we can't go by ourselves. And we made this little Instagram video and we were like, if anyone wants to be crew, like, reach out to us. This is when we're going. And we had a ton of people reach out, and we had to do a couple interviews and like turn some people away. We were like, you're not the fit, because we wanted someone who knew how to sail. They didn't have to know how to climb, but that's a bonus. But most importantly, they had to have good vibes. Like, they had to be fun and funny and fun to be around. So we went with these two lovely humans. Some of you might recognize Levi on the left. He is also a route setter and coach at the Cove. He is from Alberta. And why don't you tell the story about how he came crew?
Yeah, he came crew because we were hosting a climbing event. And then, like most all great things happen, we went to a bar afterwards, and I asked him to come, and he just said yes immediately before telling any of his supervisors. And then he had to beg the outfitters to let him come for 19 days. His dad, his grandfather is actually a pretty prominent guy. He invented heli skiing. Yeah, really cool statistic. Yeah, really neat. Yeah. And he looked like that the entire trip. It was wonderful, wonderful. What do you think?
NACC.
Oh, right, yes, yeah, the Alpine Climbing Club of Canada. He also founded that, if you know what the Alpine Climbing Club of Canada.
His grandfather, not Levi.
Not Levi, no, his grandfather.
And this person is Chris. Chris is awesome. You may have met him when he's been here. He's been here a couple of times. The first time I met him was in 2018, perhaps, and he lived in Colorado at that time, and he flew to Newfoundland to go on the boat Skydancer, which some of you might know, with Nick and Estella. And he came to Walnuts. I was working one day, and we were chatting, and I was like, this guy's sick. Like, we kept in touch. And then he decided 2 years later to cycle around the world. So he cycled through Newfoundland, and we met up with him and had a chat. And so when we were thinking about crew, we were like, well, Chris is so fun. Chris knows how to sail. Chris knows how to climb. And I messaged him and I was like, Chris, do you want to come? And he was like, hell yeah, of course I want to come. So that was our crew. It was just the four of us. My dad was supposed to come with us, But he ended up going on a trip on Skydancer instead, which is sick. Yeah.
Yeah, one really cool adventure that Chris did, and this is how we knew that he knew how to suffer and live without showering for a while. Him and two other friends, 3 people, this is not a joke, 3 people left New York to row across the Atlantic. They were on the water for about 3 months. They got as far as Iceland, where they had to get picked up because a storm was coming. So going down to Devil's Bay was easy for him. But he's not from Newfoundland, right? And early on in our trip, we had to do a lot of grocery shopping, so he was kind of like picking things out in the grocery store. And there was a couple of things that were lost in translation for him. I've got a little video to show.
Can you just say what you said to me?
I just don't understand what a T-bun is. What the fuck is a T-bun? Where does the bun go?
We did buy T-buns after.
Yeah, so that's Chris. He's always laughing like that. He's just a hoot. So, yeah, I've never really been on an overnight sailing trip, but I do know how to make an epic list. So I made our spreadsheet for everything we were going to be eating because we were 4 people without a grocery store for 19 days.
There's no grocery stores in the ocean.
Yeah, because there's no grocery stores in the ocean. So we had to get everything we wanted before we were going to stop. We did stop. We were planning to stop also in St. Pierre, but we didn't want to rely on a grocery store there for most of our groceries. And there's a tiny little store in Francois, but we didn't really want to rely on their grocery store either. So I made this beautiful spreadsheet of what we would eat. So it had breakfast, lunch, dinners, and snacks for everybody. And personally, I don't like eating the same thing every single day. I'm okay with the same thing for like 4 days in a row, but then I want it changed. So yeah, we had a massive bulk barn run, a massive Costco run. For example, we had 16 packs of mac and cheese, 5.5 pounds of coffee, almost 500 liters of water, 48 eggs, 32 muscle milks.
We were not going to run out of water this time.
Yeah, we were determined that wouldn't be what stopped us. So after our many large grocery trip runs, which can I put this?
Yeah.
Then we had to separate all the food because we didn't want to just throw all the food in the boat and then be day 13 like, where's our mac and cheese? So we took baggies for every single day. Every day, each person had a little baggie for their breakfast and their lunch. And then we had a community dinner. So there was whatever 19 times 5 is. That's how many baggies there were of food.
And we also obviously needed to take all of our climbing gear, so we took the opportunity then, because when we packed it inside of our bags, which we'll show you what that looks like in a minute, the next time we were going to open them up, we were going to be in Devil's Bay. So everything had to be stacked correctly and well attested to. We also had to round up 500 meters of climbing rope. We'll talk to you a bit about why we needed that amount of rope. Typically, you just bring about 70 meters, but we had a little bit of a complex climb to do, so we ended up stealing a bunch of rope from our friends. Thanks, everyone. And then it was time to load everything up. So again, we were in St. John's Harbor, so it was really easy just to head down and pack everything up. It was a pretty rainy day. Chris. This again, he looked like that the entire time. Chris's bag got a little bit wet as we were loading it and never dried for 19 days. But that was our little home. We made it as cozy as it was. I did have a lot of gear on the boat, just because who I am. Like there's a wrench underneath this thing, and then you did what you did here earlier. Yeah, here.
If there's something that we don't need, I don't want it in my sight. So
I'm surprised I survived that.
Every single thing that Trevor had on his boat, I picked it up. I said, Trevor, what is this? He would tell me. I'd say, do we need this? And he said yes or no. And we filled like 3 huge Tupperwares of stuff we didn't need.
I didn't know I had it all.
So we only had the essentials. This is all of our food. All of our food fit up there. Yeah.
I've been...
Oh, something that was also really, really magical about doing this trip is that usually on our climbing trips, we go to the airport, we take a flight all day, we rent a car, we drive for another half day, we stay somewhere, we go get groceries the next day, and then the trip kind of starts. So it's like a 4-day journey. Whereas for this trip, we drove 5 minutes from our front door, got on the boat, and our trip began.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. 2. Yeah. One more click. Yeah. So this was the first leg of our journey. We left St. John's and wanted to head all the way to St. Pierre. We did stop in Port Kerwin for one night. We did a day sail from St. John's to Port Kerwin, just so everyone kind of like learned the boat a little bit, because it was the first time for 3 of them ever to be on it. Spent the night in Port Kerwin and then did the whole sail from Port Kerwin all the way to St. Pierre. Because we were sailing overnight, this was the shift schedule that I went with. So Chris knew how to sail. I obviously did, so we needed to be on opposite shifts, and then we had Thatcher and Levi playing support for us. Did a fair bit of research about what the length of time should be for a shift, and in that amount of time, 4 hours on, 4 hours off seemed to be about appropriate. If you were doing something a little bit longer, like a week, I wouldn't recommend it, but you do get a little bit worn down, but it seemed to be the right sort of mix between rest and work. To keep things a little bit more interesting, I did shift Levi and Thatcher's schedule by 2 hours as well. Meaning that every single 2-hour block, there was something that changed. So if I was on for my 4-hour block, I would have Levi for 2 hours, and then Levi would go, and then Thatcher would come on for 2 hours. And then that's kind of to keep things fresh. And plus you get a chance to interact with other people along your shift. Does that kind of make sense? Is that what people do? Yeah, you tell me. You guys aren't talking much on here. Yeah, Jim, what do you like to do? So the research that I was telling about was Jim. Okay, all right, yeah, so here we are leaving. Yeah, this was 6:30 a.m. on a Friday, and these are the people that came to see us off. I do run a run club, 6:30 on Friday. Every Friday, we start at Bannerman Brewing. You're all invited. Please come. But it was really cool because as we were sailing out to the harbor, the run club was running by, taking photos of us, which was really kind of neat. I was hell-bent on leaving at that time. There you go.
Yeah, so we got on a boat, and Levi had never been on this boat before. I'd never been on this boat before. And I think 5 minutes into the trip, Levi puked.
Oh, trigger warning. We're going to talk about a lot of ejection from fluids from orifices. All of them. It's coming.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful, what Trevor and Chris kept saying, and I don't know what this means, but they kept being like, yeah, it's a confused sea state. So I'm confused. Levi and I were like, okay, like it's great. We did pass this. This is Hare's Ears Island. But Trevor read it on the map and he said it's Ayers. We all said, what? So I'm from Colorado.
I was really excited.
Chris is from Colorado. Levi's from Alberta. Trevor's like, it's Ayers! We're passing Ayers! We were like, what are you saying? So for the next 19 days, we said Ayers.
It was around this time too that Levi found out that we were sailing through the night. It just never came up. I don't know. He's like, what? We're just going to sail all the way through the night. But yeah, here we are. This was our first sunset. Oh, he also learned what a keel was at that point in time because he was wondering why the boat didn't tip over. So here we are again. This is overnight. We did bring a lot of food from Gingerly, yeah.
Jillian is here, who is the owner of Gingerly, and she sent us off with a bunch of her cookies. So we had those for 19 days. They lasted like the whole trip, and it was such a treat.
What's the next? Right, yeah. So everyone here knows how relaxing and easing sailing is when you have a constant wind condition. So Thatcher brought a book. It was originally meant for you, I guess, but we just started reading out loud, and we just got captivated.
What had happened was that, I was on shift sometimes with Trevor, and I was on shift sometimes with Chris. So on my shift with Chris, I started reading him a book, and then on a shift with Trevor, I started reading him a book. But then everyone got really invested in this one book, so we could only read it when we were all there. It's Room. I don't know if you've read it. We did actually finish the book over the trip. And it's so funny. If you haven't been on a boat with someone for 19 days, or like in a close quarters with someone for 19 days, and those are the only people you interact with, things get very silly very fast. Like we were just laughing the whole time. We did have a charcuterie board, which was incredible, seeing as we were in the ocean. And I took it upon myself to, cook for everybody and make sure everyone was caffeinated. And the sea was not calm.
I was confused.
It was a very confused sea state. And I was like, that's fine. I'm going to make coffee. It's great. It's a pour over. Like I'll put it in the sink. And it did not go well.
I first started sleeping in the quarter berth. I thought that would have been a great place to be because, as the boat's going through, that would have been the least amount of motion. And it was recommended to me to sleep back there. But I will admit, I didn't like it. I found the sound of the engine did have earplugs in, and then the vibration was kind of bothering me, and the odor. So I only spent 2 shifts there, I think, and then I just transitioned up to the foreberth with everyone else up there who was sleeping. So just a heads up, I think that's probably a better place to sleep. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't really know, but that's what I'm going to do from now on. So mistakes happen. We're not immune to them. We did have an autopilot on board, and I know that autopilots don't work very well going downwind, especially when the sea state's really high. We did have an accidental job. It did happen. Yeah, I know. We were all really tired at this point in time. I think it might have been about hour 36 or something.
Yeah,
You
it
seemed
was
excited about
it was the middle of the night. I'll let you know, I didn't really stick to the schedule. I had massive FOMO. I really liked being awake when everyone else was awake. So at some point I was like, I actually can't stay up anymore. So I was asleep, Chris was asleep, Trevor and Levi were on shift. And it's the middle of the night, like nothing really happens. You kind of just sort of sitting there, making sure things are going all right. And they, something this is what happened from my point of view. I'm like snoozing, having a great little sleep. All of a sudden I hear Chris, who's like 2 feet away from me. He's like on the couch and I'm in the front berth. And Chris shoots up and he's like, what's going on? And he takes the time to find his socks and put his socks on. I've never seen someone move so fast. That's all he wanted to do was put his socks on and run up to Trevor and Levi and be like, guys, what is going on?
And we were like, it's fine. I was actually a little bit embarrassed that it happened because we did talk about it earlier and we were like, this boom is going to flip over if we accidentally jive, but we've got this. It's fine. It's not going to happen. But anyway, it did happen. Mistakes happen. Who has had an accidental jive before? Okay, everyone who's not raising your hand is lying. But anyway, we did make it to St. Pierre after all, and we managed to see the Eiffel Tower. This picture does not do it justice. I highly recommend you all head there. We ended up going there on a Sunday, and nobody survived the vomit tick. All of us, every single one of us, projectile vomited off the back. It happens to us all. If you go out and look at the boat right now, it's still there.
So yeah, I saw 2 people move extremely fast while we were on this trip. One was Chris putting his socks on. Never seen someone move that fast. The other was Trevor. We were on shift together. Again, the middle of the night. Trevor's like kind of just lying down, and I'm like lying there, probably just like listening to music. Trevor shoots up, runs to the back of the boat, and just projectile vomits everywhere across.
Just like a full dragon, like ah!
Just crazy. So we had to take a little picture with all of our puke and point out whose was whose.
So it was a Sunday in St. Pierre. A lot of things were closed. We did manage to find a little convenience store where we got some wine, cheese, and bread, and milk. They have European milk there, which is, of course, really delicious. One thing we did want to rely on was ice, and we couldn't find ice in the convenience store, but we were still walking around, stretching our legs, and we managed to find their ice rink where the Zamboni dumped a bunch of the ice that they scraped off afterwards. So we bagged it all up and put it in our icebox. That was our ice source. So we only there for a night. We did not know that if you check in out of the country, then you have to go to Fortune to check back in. We were completely unaware, but we did go there on a Sunday, and the passport office was closed, so we never did check in. and we're not going to announce that we were there publicly. So now you're all in on the secret. It didn't happen. So yeah, the next day we woke up, and our mission then was to go from St. Pierre to Francois, which is right here, which is as far as west as we wanted to go. We did a little bit of climbing training, keeping our fingers warm because, again, we're on a boat for a number of days. So we wanted to still be, we had to perform when we eventually got to our destination. All right, yeah, and halfway through, this to me was, I will say this is the highlight of the trip for me. Is it for you?
It's up there.
It's up there, yeah.
It's
I
up
do
there.
have another video to show. If it plays. The dolphin. So we were noticing the dolphins as they were swimming. They would then turn sideways. And I think what was happening is that they were turning to look up at us. Yeah.
Oh my god!
And the dolphins didn't come just one time. We had dolphins come to us probably 6 or 7 times. And dolphins are super social animals. And what we saw was like, you could see the dolphins coming over to you. And they would come when our motor was on. They like are very attracted to the sound of a boat motor, which we've learned possibly is because they are such social animals. They want to interact with people. The more you cheer them on, the more that they stick around. As soon as we went quiet, they left. And they also like chat with each other. So one pod would be coming from this side, and you could like hear them. If you were down below, you could hear them like talking. And then another pod would come from over here, and then another pod would come from over here. And there were so many dolphins, and like, oh my god, it was amazing. It was so amazing.
You can talk again if you want. This is coming into Francois.
Yeah, so this is coming into Francois. It was so beautiful. And it was so sunny that day. Like, look how happy Trevor is. We were just like vibing the whole time. We had music on. We were dancing. And we got into the channel, whatever it's called. And Trevor started sobbing. Trevor cried like 3 times on the way in because it was so beautiful. And we all just could, like, we were just floored with, and I've been there before. I've seen how beautiful it is, but it's just breathtaking to go down there. And if you haven't been to the South Coast, you should go. It's really amazing.
You all were like, oh, he cried. I cry all the time. And of course, everyone knew who we were as soon as we showed up because we started touching the rock like this. And you guys are rock climbers.
Yeah, the texture is great.
We had a little lunch, and then our next job. Oh, I should tell you this a little bit more. So Devil's Bay was our destination. That's where we wanted to climb to, but there's no dock there. We could have left the boat on anchor, but we didn't want to go start sleeping on that thing and then watch the boat start drifting away. Bye-bye trip home. So what we decided to do instead was to bring the boat to Francois and then find a fisherman, give him a pack of smokes, and get him to bring us around the corner to Devil's Bay. That was our plan. So once we landed here, our next job was to find somebody. So we started, obviously, going around looking like that and asking around for someone to bring us around to a couple of bays next door, Devil's Bay. And we managed to find this legend.
Yeah, and so what you can do before you go is you can actually email Corey and say, hey, we're coming this day. We'd like to go to Devil's Bay. But we were like, nah, let's wing it. We'll find him. So we get there and we start talking to everyone. It's a tiny, tiny little place. There's one little road. And we ran into someone who runs the community center and also the convenience store and also
everything. The post office.
Everything. She runs everything. So yes, like the convenience store is open for 3 hours and then she closes it and then goes to her other job, and that's open for 3 hours and then she closes it and then goes to another place. So we ran into her and we were like, hey, we're looking for someone to bring us to Devil's Bay. She's like, oh yeah, my dad used to do that, but like he doesn't really do that anymore. Let me just give a message to some people. So she messaged the group chat, and then some other people came and talked to us and they were like, yeah, usually Corey does that. We'll see if Corey can do it. So we went down to the dock, and then Corey came on his quad and ripped around so fast. He was like on one wheel and he was like, what's up, guys? Like, Corey, can you take us to Devil's Bay? He's like, oh, sorry, it'll depend. I got got some clients. We're gonna get some lobster tomorrow in the morning, so we'll see if we're back by 10. See how the weather is. And we're like, okay, well, like that would be great. And he was like, all right. And so he's super super chatty. So he was telling us also, he was like, oh yeah, like I took Madison over there before. Like he knows all of the climbers that we know. And he's great. We were like, have you climbed? He's like, no, I haven't climbed. He's like, I would never do that. I'll bring you over there, but I'm not going to do that. And it turned out that the weather and the water was great the next day. So we packed up.
Yeah.
And he came and got us.
Yeah, here we are. So we took everything that we did need. Again, all these bags were packed back in the house. Right, so we haven't still opened them up because we had, our mission was to get there. So all the climbing things were down underneath the cockpit, and that's just where we didn't need them while we were staying. So we had to haul that out, put it on the dock, load up Corey's boat, and he didn't just bring us to Devil's Bay. He gave us a grand tour of the area, which was really, really cool. He had so much fun. And this is where his cabin is. So he went in, brought and showed us his little neck of the woods. Over right here is where his dad's place is too, so we managed to see that too. Again, Chris looks like this the entire time. We're just so happy. Yeah, it was kind of a wild ride, and this is a little bit faster than my boat goes. So really what's happening here, this is basically just letting the stink blow off us. Kind of air drying, I guess, or dry cleaning. Yeah, this is his dad and his dad's dog. We used this little runabout dinghy to bring everything to shore. Wait.
Don't click yet.
Don't click yet.
He also, so part of the tour that he took us on, he brought us to get this dinghy, which was part tour and part utility. And then he brought us around to another area that people climb. He was like, yeah, someone was here climbing last week. If I can't get you over to Devil's Bay, like maybe I can take you here. Like if that climb doesn't work out, there's this one. And he was just like, he took us everywhere, and we were like, this is so sweet. Yeah, and then we do have a video of us seeing the cliff for the first time because it's kind of in like a little bay.
Just watch Thatcher's face. You'll see the moment when we see the wall for the first time. There it is.
It's like we have El Cap right here.
That's crazy.
That's here. This is where we live. It's crazy. Yeah, we were very, very thrilled.
This is what's good about having other people with us because they were our film crew the entire time. So here it is. This is a drone photo taken by one of our friends called Brandon Whalen. These are fully grown trees right here. Kind of gives you a sense of scale. So it's about 1,300 feet from tip to toe. This is kind of a cool photo because our base camp, you don't just start climbing right from the boat. You still need a place where you sleep. We needed a place for Chris and Levi and just a place to rest and regroup. So we set up our tent right here. This is kind of where we lived. And our climb objective was starting from this grassy point on the way up. So we kind of had to set up a little bit of a sideways climb to be able to get to the start where we wanted to go vertical. I'll show you a photo of that in a second, but this is just a general layout of where we lived. And there's another photo of it. We did with Corey, this is Corey again, get him to give a little U-turn around it so we can kind of get up close and take some photos so we could study the photos a little bit closer when we had our base camp set up. This is another drone photo of the cliff, of course. And then it was time to land ashore. So Corey put an anchor on his boat, and then I rowed ashore with the small dinghy and set up a little zip line so we can bring the dinghy back and forth and back and forth. And here's a little time lapse of it, and you can see the dinghy right here, and this is how we were bringing things back and forth. That whole process took about an hour or so, and then it was time to find base camp. The place is relatively sloped everywhere, and we did manage to find a level area that was about from me to you. in square. That's all we could find in this whole place. This little tiny.
And we looked for like
3
hours to find
Yeah.
some, where we were like walking all up and down. Where'd it go?
One more.
Oh no, we got dropped off like here. Would you say? And I think we ended up camping here. So we panned out across this whole section to try to find somewhere flat, and we ended up finding that tiny little spot. And it wasn't necessarily dry. We were like basically in a little bit of a river, because this whole thing is a waterfall. So you have to camp in the middle of the waterfall and just hope that you're in a dry spot, which we didn't get wet.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was perfect for us. And it was, flat enough. So we had to probably do like 7 trips of our gear from where Corey dropped us off to where base camp was, which took another like 3-4 hours. But this is the part where Trevor really, really, really shines. Me and Chris and Levi were like grueling up with like half of what Trevor has. Then Trevor comes up with this massive load, and he just like walks on by like he was doing laps. In the time it took me and Chris and Levi to go 1 trip, Trevor gone 2. And Trevor just had his AirPods in. He was like locked in. Yeah, so that was. It is a bit grueling. It's a bit type 2 fun.
6:30 a.m. Friday morning, every banner room morning. You're welcome to come. There you go, night 1.
Oh,
Yeah. So obviously there's no light pollution there. We saw so much up in the sky, every single star you can ever imagine. Satellites, shooting stars, everything. It was all there. And next morning, we actually kind of got a chance to look.
Wait. Yeah, and so also there's no service out here. You can't be on your phone. You can't be scrolling. You can't be texting your friends. You just have to be with the people that you're with. We did bring Starlink so that we could check in with Corey and check the weather, because we had to make sure that we'd have a weather window to do our climb. But we would just turn Starlink on for like 5 minutes a day, maybe. And the rest of the time we were just like, it was just the 4 of us. And so, you're like out there 8 p.m. it looks like this. And, when you're looking at the stars, you're like, oh, I have all these questions about the stars and space and what it all means and what it all is. And luckily, Trevor is basically an astronaut, and he knows everything about space. So every night we'd be like, so Trevor, like, when you see a shooting star, like, what is that? And he'd be like, oh, like it was great. And Trevor always went to bed before us. And so we'd lay out there and make our list. And in the morning, Trevor would wake up and make us all coffee and wake us up and say, coffee's ready, everybody. Wake up, kids. And we say, Trevor, tell us these space questions.
So a meteor is when an asteroid falls through the atmosphere, and that's a shooting star. But if it hits the Earth, that's a meteorite. That'll be on your final exam, folks. Yeah, first morning. Here it is. This is what it looked like. And you can see that one little level spot that we found, and that was it. Yeah, gorgeous. It was perfect in its own little way.
Wait, you cut it off. You cut it off or whatever.
It was cycling. I can go back if you want. Do you want to watch it yourself?
No, it's fine.
You've seen this video.
I know, but it's so pretty. It's so pretty. Look at it. Oh my God. Okay, now we see.
Okay. Which one's the Newfoundlander? Yeah, I'm a cold kind of guy. We did have variable weather. Everything looks really dramatic when the fog rolls in. Fog here, it doesn't always come down the entire way, but you can't really have a sense of scale here because the mountains aren't as tall. So when it's down a little tiny bit, you can kind of still see the top of the mountain we were going to climb peeking out above it, which we thought was really dramatic. Okay, show and tell.
Show and tell.
Yeah, so we have a lot of our climbing gear here. We want to kind of like make this like a little bit of a break. So if you guys want to stand up and stretch your legs, use the washroom, grab a beer, I'll have another day boil. That'd be great.
Me too, please. Yeah, so this next part, we're going to start talking about climbing a little bit. So we want you to kind of have an idea of what things are when we say cams and nuts and sky hooks and whatever else we're going to say. So yeah, you can come up. We can also pass around the stuff. We brought.
Yeah, I'm going to pass it around a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, he's coming. All right, everyone sit down. Sit down, please. Kindly. Okay, did everyone have a chance to look at the gear and touch it and kind of get a feel for it? Because yeah,
You're
we're
sick of
gonna
touching
talk a lot about what all this stuff is. I think Trevor wants to first talk about the bolt.
Wow.
Okay, all right. So the reality is, we are not the first people to climb here. We're kind of following other people's footsteps a little bit. There was somebody called Joe. I never did.
Teraviccia?
Yeah, that's his name.
Something like that?
He climbed there in '95, and the first person who climbs in places usually puts these things in the rock. They're called bolts. This one's a glue-in one, so you drill a hole. Back in the day, you used to have to drill it by hand, which took about 45 minutes per hole. Now we've got fancy drills and stuff like that, so we're spoiled now. But left protruding from the rock is that thing. That's what you see. So you saw that big aerial photo, and we had to find one of these. And
Because this is people aren't really going here every weekend. It's not like Squamish where you see the rock and you see the path in the moss. Like there's moss, but then there's a clean piece of rock where you're like, okay, that's where I go. Here, people go, like maybe 1 or 2 groups go here a year, maybe. So it's like the bush is everywhere, and we're looking for that tiny little thing, and there's one of them. And there is a map that kind of gives you a vague idea of where it is.
it's kind of like Dora the Explorer kind of map. It's not great.
Yeah, it's like it's in this general vicinity. So we did spend about 3 hours looking for that bolt, and eventually Levi found it. And do we have a picture?
This is not a posed photo. We were this confused.
This is what you're trying to find a bolt in. Tell me you can find a bolt in this on a piece of rock.
So we were like climbing around, like vaguely looking for it. But anyway, here it is. Where's the 2? There it is.
Yeah. So this is the start of our traverse, which is go back to the photo of the map. Yeah, so that is the traverse that starts, or the start of our climb starts here. So
Traverse means you're climbing sideways.
Yeah. So we have to get from here to here. And it's not really a flat surface. It is pretty vertical, but it's not like super hard vertical. So we set up a little bit of a zip line situation, which is what we needed 500 meters of rope for. So once we found our bolt, then we started questing over. And the route, so how many routes was it? How many pitches was it? 7 pitches. So we had to find 7 bolts on that area of rock. So you start at one, you start climbing around, and then eventually you get to another one. And so we had like 10 ropes. How many ropes did we use?
500 meters, I don't know. 500 over 70, whatever that is.
Yeah, we had many ropes, and we had to connect them all together. So we had Levi and Chris behind us, and they would like carry our ropes across the traverse that we just set up. And Trevor would tie them up for me. However he did that, I don't know.
Double fisherman's.
Yeah, and we did that. That took us like an entire day to get from one side to the other side.
And yeah, the idea why we wanted to do this is because once you set up a zip line, then we can get all of our food, water, sleeping, portalage, everything over here relatively quickly. So while it took us a day to climb with the rope, once the line was set up, it was like a highway. And we can get back and forth in about 45 minutes. That was the idea behind setting up this rope sideways. And this is kind of what it looked like. So once we had everything set up, we had a pulley system, and we would take our bags and just kind of like walk sideways with all of our stuff. And we had massive bruises on our left hips. I know it's so hard. Okay, day 1. Once we finally got to the base of where we wanted to climb vertically, it was time to start doing that. And we often get the question, are you nervous when you start climbing? The answer is yes. We start to vomit. This was the trip of vomit. But we know we expect it. We all take it in stride, which is why once we're like, you cool, bro? And we're like, yeah, everything's good. Okay, all right. This is it. This is the start. This is when we start going vertical. So you can see that I've got all the climbing gear, which is the exact same gear you see over there, and I'm clipping it onto my harness. What we expect to find on the way up. So when we're climbing, we're looking for defects in the rock, cracks and pockets and all that kind of stuff. If a section is sort of blank, sometimes the person who set up the climb first will put a bolt in for you, right? Sometimes they won't, depending on how much time they have and whether or not they're developing climbs for other people to do. Yeah, so we started documenting this, and this is step one.
Traverse questing up.
This is it. We're here. Many sea miles and traversing and gear hauling, and that's the beginning right there.
Right there.
Cool. All right, climbing.
All right, climb on, have fun.
I will.
And we start.
Look at all the stuff on that harness. That is not light. Oh my gosh.
And after I made 2 steps, I'm like, put the phone down. Yeah, so as we're climbing, again, we're looking for these defects, right? And it is a bit of a skill to know what gear you have and what colors they are, where there are 2 on your harness, because you've got about 30 pounds of this gear. And being able to look at a crack and be like, that's a number 1. And then you take it, and you put it in, you put your hook in, and you start climbing on. That takes a lot of practice, which is why we spent so much time practicing all this stuff. That one's relatively tiny. It's about the size of my thumb. And sometimes we will have things that are called sky hooks. And they look like this. So they're not actually connected to the rock. They're just kind of like up over a little lip. And we step on that to climb up a little bit for my dad. He's like, what are you doing? For a sense of scale, this is the big cliff. And you'll see this dot right here. That's me.
You're always tied up.
Mostly tied on.
We're always tied on.
Yeah, it's big. It's big. So here we are at the end of what we'll call vertical climbing day 1. We got up as far as here, and I left my rope here. You can see that this is Thatcher down here, and my rope comes up. I set up an anchor system, so sometimes I'll sling a horn or I'll put a cam in a crack. Generally, we want 3 to 4 pieces, and then we make a little anchor, and then we leave the rope, okay? So now we have a rope going from here down, and then a rope going all the way back to basically base camp. Then it was time to rest. So we've been sailing for a number of days in St. Pierre, swimming around in Zamboni ice, finding some dolphins, finding Corey, going to this new place, lugging everything up, setting up base camp, doing a traverse, hauling our gear over, and we figured, let's take a little break. So it was rest day.
Yeah, and it was supposed to rain this day. We looked at our Starlink weather the night before, and we're like, okay, perfect, this lines up great. We'll have a weather window after. It's supposed to rain all day tomorrow. So we all crammed in one tent to have a little slumber party, because we turned one tent into just storage, and the other tent we all crammed into. It was a 3-person tent that we had 4 people in, and it was very cozy. So we woke up, and it was not a rainy day. It was beautiful. It was absolutely perfect. We maybe had rain for like 5 seconds in the day. We were in the tent, and we were like, okay, we'll just like play little cards. And we did have our box wine from France that we picked up. So we had. This is our hot tub. This is my hot tub. I made bubbles, little jets. That was right next to our campground. And yeah, we had a dance party all day.
Yeah, the next video is the dance party.
Oh,
yeah.
is it?
Click it, yeah. Things.
Oh, did I?
No, you're good. Things got weird. We did bring dance party outfits. I'm so glad we were alone. Okay, next.
What's this one?
Oh, we can watch it again. Okay, keep going. Okay, cool, yes. And we also played charades. I mean, what else are you going to do when there's 4 people and nothing else going on? This was Chris's classic dancing move with the arms up. He does have toilet paper in his hand in this one right there. Sometimes you just feel light after it happens. Okay, all right, whatever. again, this is Leviathan day 2. So at this point in time, we had all these ropes set up, and we were out of rope. So we eventually had to do what's called blasting off. This is when you commit to the route. When you leave base camp with everything that you need, and then you will not come back down until you either bail or finish. And again, we vomit. So there is a rope that does go vertical. Thatcher right now is what's called jugging. So when the rope is there, it's easier to climb the rope than it is to climb the rock. It's a lot faster. This is actually fast, what's happening right now. So that's how we get up the rope. And just so you know how this system works, is that one person stays at the bottom, and then there's a climber that climbs, and they're called the leader. And when they run out of rope, they make an anchor. And then the person that's at the bottom will then climb the rope to come up to where you were.
No, there's a separate rope that the person comes up. No, there's not. No, there's not.
No, it's not. We're really good climbers.
I know how to do it.
And then when you're both at the top, all of your food and water and gear are still at the bottom. And then you set up a 3-to-1 pulley system and pull all that gear up. Now you're both up a little bit higher, about 70 meters higher with all your gear. And then the process repeats. Then it's the other person's turn to lead. And you flip back and forth until you run out of daylight. And about that process takes 3 to 4 hours or so. So you're doing 3 or 4 hours in you're doing 70 meters in 3 or 4 hours. This was then your lead. Yeah. Do you want to talk about how you felt about that?
So Trevor had the best lead ever the day before, 2 days before. He was just cruising along, having the best time of his life. And then we're jugging up the rope, and we get to the start of my pitch, and I start climbing, and I'm like, oh, hail, like, we have chosen the wrong climb. Like, we should not. I just, like, started doubting everything. I was like, this rock is not really the type of rock that is good for aid climbing, which is the type of climbing we were doing. You need, like, consistent cracks, and it was not consistent cracks. It just, like, it was really, really hard, and I was like, I don't think that this is where we should be. But Trevor was like, look at the rainbow, you look awesome, like, this is the best, I'm having so much fun. So I was like, I can't tell Trevor that I am hating my life right now. I was like, okay, like, maybe it'll get better, maybe it's just this one section, maybe it's just this one pitch. So I like, okay, I guess I'll keep going. And Trevor's like, wow, so cool. And we get to the top of the pitch, and then when you're the climber, once you get there and you make your anchor and your belayer starts jugging, the rope starts coming up to meet you, your job as the climber is to start pulling all of the stuff that's at the bottom up.
And it kind of looks like that.
So I like start, it's called hauling. So I start hauling, and Trevor is usually a better hauler, but I'm fine. And I start hauling, and nothing's happening. Like, nothing is moving. And I'm like, oh, what is going on? I'm like, Trevor, I think the bag's stuck. And he's like, no, it looks clear. It's great. It looks totally fine for me. And I'm like, okay, like, maybe I'm just really tired. And I'm like pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, and still not moving. And then Trevor gets up, and Trevor's like, okay, let's set up the 3-to-1. And then we start pulling, and we both start pulling on the rope, and it's still not moving. It's maybe moved like 4 inches in
a half hour.
And so then I'm like, okay, Trevor, I'm gonna go check on the bag. I'm gonna wrap down.
Sorry, wrap means rappel. Okay.
Yeah, so you like go back down the rope. And so our bags I wrap down, and I have to like go down 2 ropes, and I get to where our bag is, and it is like 5 feet off of the ground where we started 2 days ago. And it's stuck on this tiny little lip, and I kick it, and it shoots like 30 feet up in the air. And I was like, yep. So our bag was stuck. We were just hauling for like 2 hours for nothing.
Yeah. So when you're hauling, you're obviously putting a lot of load on this rope, and the ropes are a little bit stretchy, right? So then we had this rope supercharged with about 600 pounds of force ready to go, stuck under this lip. So they kicked it, and then went. Anyway,
it was awesome. It was awesome.
Then once everything was up, it was time to set up our home, and this is kind of what it looks like. This is the same portal ledge that we see over there. It's called a portal ledge, which is basically like a hanging tent. There it is naked. We do have a fly that goes over it for rain protection. And this photo is actually from Yosemite, from our first climb, but we didn't really have a selfie stick because it didn't make the cut. Yeah, and life on the ledge is actually kind of fun. Here we are eating. We do have a stove which hangs, and there it is right there. We can have warm water to cook food or to make coffee. And space is of course limited, so you're left to your essentials only. And yeah, we just kind of like hanging out on the ledge because this is what Thatcher's dream was ever since they learned about what rock climbing is. Do you want to talk about ledge life a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, ledge life is the best. It's so much fun. I love it. I love it. I wish we didn't have. I wish it was naked all the time. I wish we didn't have our fly, but Trevor really likes to fly.
It's like drop shit.
It's true, actually. So when you're on the ledge, even if you do have your fly, every single thing that you have has to be on a little string. So I don't know if you can really see it in this picture, but all of our water had a string. We were on a string. Our food was always on a string. Everything's like on this tiny little piece of string. And yeah, you're in like super, super close quarters. We sleep with our heads opposite each other. So we're like sleeping next to each other's feet. And there's an opening on either side of the ledge. So on Trevor's side, when he goes to sleep, he really likes to zip it up and be all cozy. And I like to unzip mine and like stick my head out and be under the stars. Yeah, ledge life is really, really fun.
We do have two harnesses we bring with us. One is our climbing harness, which is relatively large and bulky. We do have smaller harnesses, which Thatcher's wearing there, which is a lot lighter. So you can kind of like change harnesses and go into a smaller harness that's a little bit more comfortable for sleeping. And we are all always tied on. This right here is my leash. So if anything were to happen, if you were to sleepwalk or whatever, you're still attached at some capacity. Dad's about to have a heart attack. Okay. Day 3. So here we are. Here's morning. This is what morning looks like. Alarms are not set. You're waking up with the sun, which is really neat. And you can see Thatcher's head out the portal edge. And then it was time for breakfast. We really like muscle milk and granola and a little bit of fruit. It's a great, great morning and some coffee. We did forget coffee this time. I know, cue gassed. And then it's time to, we're going to talk about it. It's time to get your business out of the way. So in both of these photos, Thatcher's pants are down. You'll notice this dark streak right here.
Listen, when you gotta go, you gotta go.
That's it. That's what you do. You just pee. We did climb in a relatively popular place in Yosemite, and the whole time you're just slight smell of urine.
No, literally, bro, when I got home, this is crazy. When I got home, I don't know where I was. When we got back from Yosemite, and I like smelled pee, I was like, oh my god, I miss El Cap. Smells like El Cap. Like that's just how it smells.
You can talk about number 2 if you want.
No, you can talk about.
Okay, so number 1 is just you just pee. That's just it. No.
Unless you're on a wall and there are people below you, then you don't want to pee on them. It's not very nice. So on this trip, we didn't take extra. We knew that there was going to be no one climbing below us, so it was fine. But when we were in Yosemite and the route that we were on was really popular, we both do have to have a pee water bottle. So you have a water bottle that's like, if you have to go and there's someone below you, you have to collect it in your water bottle and then pour it out later.
I clean mine. I'm kidding. Guys, come on. Okay, number 2, Metamucil is your best friend. It keeps you regular. I tend to do number 2 in the morning. You do too, right? We know each other's poop signal now. During our training, we used to visit each other's houses all the time, of course, and then we started using the washroom with the door open, just to get used to the idea of being that level of exposed. We have slightly different methods for pooping. Me, I just shit on the floor. We do have these things called wag bags, which I just unfurled for you. You want to just take a mic?
Yeah.
And inside, there is a little tiny bit of toilet paper. This is what you have. And a little moist towelette. And this whole thing opens up. I just make sure I open up right.
Yeah, so we bring like many of these with us. We kind of overestimate how many times we're gonna need one. And then we have a separate, so once you use it, so we'll give a demonstration. There's like some silica gel in there to harden things up.
Inside there's a little bit of powder that's right here, and this is meant to absorb any liquid, depending on what your diet is like. For me, inside the portaledge, I just kind of like lay it down. I'm just gonna do this. I just kind of lay it down and just kind of like have at her.
On the ledge.
On the ledge.
Inside where we're sleeping. That's what Trevor likes to do.
And you know, sometimes when you're having conversations, things are like a little bit like, I think this next pitch is going to be really, really hard for both of us. What's your method? I gave you the trigger warning. This is on you.
Yeah, I don't like to shit in the tent personally. Yeah, I like to like stand off the tent and like hold it over me. So you're kind of like doing this, but off of the side of the portaledge.
And then once you do your business, you kind of like wrap this all up, and like here it is, and you kind of like twist it a little bit, get all the air out, and then roll it up. You take it with you.
We do take it with you, yeah.
You take it, and you put it inside this bag.
We have a special little bag called our poop tube that we put all of our used wag bags in, and we carry it all the way up with us, and then we take it home.
And we do have it hanging on another bag that's below all of our other gear and about 10 feet below it, just to kind of try to keep the odor out. There you go. All right, we talked about it. That was a request, by the way. Yeah, this is my pitch. So then it was my turn to climb, and I had a wonderful time. What can I say? And Thatcher, I think you took a couple of naps.
I did, yeah.
When I was climbing there,
yeah.
Took a couple of selfies. There I am right here. And you can see I am again following little defects in the rock as we're climbing up. Yeah, go ahead.
What's this?
And we have our other friends down there.
Sure, you can talk about that.
Oh, yes, okay, so...
I have my first piece, which is a 0.75, which is in this...
Oh, wait, how do you pause the video?
I don't know.
Sorry guys, technical difficulties. Okay, so Trevor did his pitch. It was beautiful, amazing. He loved it. And then I started my pitch. This is the beginning of the pitch, and it'll show you kind of some of the gear that I'm using during the pitch.
And we have our other friends down there, Chris and Eva on the ledge. And so I have my first piece, which is a 0.75, which is in this flare crack. It's not great, not terrible. And then my second piece is this sky hook. Fuck yeah. And then my third piece is this massive net. I'm quite tickled.
Yeah, so this pitch was not a lot of fun for me. So those sky hooks that I was talking about look like little metal talons.
Yeah, kind of like that.
And the problem with this pitch was it wasn't frequently traveled, and there's a lot of different cracks that you can go up. And I don't think that I really went up the right crack. So I went up a crack that wasn't super good. I had to use many of those. And once you step on one of those, as soon as you take your weight off of it, it's no longer a thing. So I had used some of those sky hooks, and then I had a pretty bad piece, probably like a small cam. And then I stepped up onto this like ledge, and then there was no defects to put my pieces in. So I kind of climbed up on top of a little pillar, and then there was still not really any pieces. And so I was like, okay, well, like my last piece is, I don't know, like 15 feet below me. Like I can't really go back down. Like I have to keep going. And so then I think I get like a really bad cam or like a tiny nut. It was like very small cracks. So I had all these micro nuts, which are like this big that you put in the crack, but I used all of my micro nuts. So all of my nuts were too big. So anyway, the gear was not very good. And then I'm like on top of this pillar. I'm like, okay, there's this pocket up here. So I have a sky hook over here, and I have a sky hook over here, and I have my foot in this one, and then I put my foot in this one. I'm like, okay, if I can just like move over this way, put the cam in the pocket, it'll be okay. Because then there's a crack. And so I'm on my 2 sky hooks on my ladders, and I have this tiny little, like if you looked at the cams, it was smaller than the smallest cam that we have over there. I put in this pocket, and I like grab onto the cam to clip my rope into. And as I'm like doing that, I transfer my weight, and both of my feet pop, and I like am not on my sky hooks anymore. And I am just holding on to the carabiner of this tiny little cam in this tiny little pocket. And my last piece of good protection is like, I don't know, 30 feet below. So if I was to take a whipper, like I would probably get hurt. But luckily my cam held me, and it was so scary. It was really, 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 really not fun. But luckily it held, and I clipped my rope into it. And then I was like, okay, great. Here's a crack over here. I'll have a piece that I can put in this crack. And I put my piece in, and it's like a pretty good sized piece. And then as soon as I step on it, I realize it is this pillar that's detached. And so as soon as I step on it, the cam like expands. So that means that the pillar is moving. So it could tip off. And it's like the pillar is as big as me. It's like quite large.
So what they're describing is that these cams, they go like this, and we put them inside cracks, and we let them go. And when they just hold in like this, but as they were weighting it, it was actually opening up and moving the other piece of rock that it was attached to, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I have to go up and over the pillar. Like my anchors are over here. I'm here. There's a pillar here. There's a crack over there. So I have my camera. I'm like, okay, well, like I just have to tread lightly. And I was like, we have walkie-talkies, which are walkie-talkies for rock climbing. And I radioed Trevor, and I was like, Trevor, like, get as close to the wall as you can. And he was like, okay, great. I was like, if you can like move out of the way of where I am, do that. And because like I didn't know, like maybe the pillar is gonna pop. You just don't know. And the thing about climbing, what we were climbing, is that at that point you couldn't bail from there because you don't have any good protection. Like you can't just leave your good protection there and come down. There's nothing to come down from. So you have to just keep going. So I very, very gently got on top of the pillar with like some sky hooks on my left. Luckily the pillar stayed, and I like transferred over into this other crack. That crack was also very bad. Like all of my gear was marginal. I didn't have like a bomber piece for basically the whole route. It was extremely, extremely scary. So I got to the top of the pitch, and I was like, oh my God. And then there's like a bolt, and you're like totally safe. And I was just like so scared.
So when you get to the top of a pit, you do find these bolts, and they're kind of like save points in a game, right? So when you get there, then you're fine, right? So at this point in time, this is how far we've come on the route. We've come this way, we've climbed up, we've slept right here, and then the next day we're up here, and then we're right here. We're getting pretty darn close to the top. We're going to call that about 80, 75% the way up. A lot farther than we got in Yosemite. We're pretty happy about it. But now we've entered a point where things are getting really scary, really dangerous. And at that point in time, we had already exceeded the risk tolerance of the partnership. I don't know how I would have acted on that pitch, but you did things beyond anything that we really signed up to do. So then it was time to have a really serious conversation. Is this worth it anymore? was that just a section of climb that was really difficult and the rest is going to be really easy? Or is this more of a sign of what's to come? We had some photos that we looked at. And so we were distant from each other physically at this point in time because I was still down at bottom and Thatcher had been climbed 70 meters above me. And we took a little moment to have an honest conversation about what we should do. And I have that video to share. This is a 3-minute video about our conversation.
Hello, everyone. Things are getting really hard. Probably more scary than hard. And Thatcher just did a pitch that was totally outside of the comfort zone. Did it anyway. It looks like the next pitch is going to be kind of similar. So we're taking a moment now to decide whether or not we bail again, which is not something I thought we would do.
Are you looking at the topo? It just means a lot more like hooking and camming and longer fall potential and less good pro and less bomber pro.
Like, I wouldn't have been able to have done what you just did.
Yeah, I'm like not very interested in doing it again.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Like when I was like halfway through that pitch, I was like, fuck, I'd really rather be anywhere else. And I was like, well, I actually can't lower because my last 3 pieces are garbage and there's like no pieces behind me. So once you commit to it, you kind of have to keep going.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I don't know. What are you thinking?
I think this is beyond the group's risk tolerance.
Yeah.
And we are way too far away from rescue.
That's true. Yeah, if we break an ankle or a spine or something.
Okay, I think that's it, Thatcher. I think it's just too risky. It's not like it's a water problem, it's not a condition problem. This time it's a risk problem. How are you feeling?
I don't know. Bummed. But also like kind of relieved to not have to do that 3 more times.
Yeah, I'm kind of deflated here too. Okay, I think that's it. We can sit and think about this for as long as we want, but it's not going to change the risk. Like, the wall's not going to change the longer we think about this.
Yeah. Okay. So what's our plan?
Okay, that's it. We decided to bail. We didn't give up. Thank you. That's Thatcher's mom. Does that mean the trip was a failure? No. Of course not. One of our phrases that we say often is that bailing is not failing. Yeah. Right? What we saw along the way, we wouldn't have been able to encounter had we not attempted it in the first place. Yeah, we'll return to that. So anyway, time to come back down. You can't just leave, right? You still have to then descend all the way back down to camp with everything that you brought with you. So it's still, I think it was maybe an 8-hour bail, something like that. It took us about 8 hours to go from where we were back to camp, maybe a little longer.
I think it was like 6.
6.
Maybe
okay.
8. I don't know.
7-hour bail. And we have a full system how we do this because, as you've seen, we've bailed many times.
We love bailing.
We love bailing. We did the math on it recently, and we bail on half the things we try, right? Which is exactly what we want to be, right? We know we're at that edge where we want to be, that this may not happen for us, right? It's exactly. If everything was obviously going to be a success, then where's the fun in that? So yeah, this is Thatcher finally getting down to the ground for the first time in a number of days, and it feels really weird to walk.
It literally feels
time.
like you're drunk. Like your body is not used to walking, and so you get on like you can't just like. We were only on the wall for like 2 days, and when you get down, your legs just like don't work. Like you literally feel like you're drunk. It's crazy.
Yeah, so cool. We called we called Corey on the Starlink, and we're like, we want to come back home. So he said, "Yep, sounds good. I'll be there tomorrow around 2 p.m." So then it was time to make the opposite of what we did and tidy everything up and throw it all down the hill, which is a lot easier to throw it down than it was to hike it back up. And then it was time to kind of reminisce for a couple of hours while we're waiting for our hero Corey to come pick us up. And here he is. This is us leaving. There's Corey showing up. He came 3 minutes early, which is just who he is as a person. And then it was time to pack up and come home. We originally did want to stop into St. Pierre on the way back and check in this time. But there was a strong southerly wind that was coming, and it was staying for quite a while. So we were like, if we don't leave right now and get around the corner of Cape Race, we're going to be stuck down here for a while. So we decided to go right back into sailing mode. I think we spent maybe 2 hours in Franceway at that point in time, and then we had the motor. We had to go. So we went right back into our shift schedule, and we're back in the sailing mode right away. Yeah, this is us eating apples. Okay, you can go to the next one. Yeah, this is our route on the way back. Again, we just wanted to get around the corner of Cape Race as quickly as we could. The very first port that you come to on the southern shore is Renews. So that's where we opted to go into. Don't know if we make that same choice again because there's not a whole lot of amenities in Renews. I don't know if you know that, but it is a safe haven. You can go to the next one. Yeah, I tried to make a time lapse of the sunrise. That doesn't work on a boat. Don't ever try that. Yeah, this was you not doing your shift. Yeah, like the 4 on, 4 off. They were just having too much FOMO when they were trying to sleep. What are you guys talking about? And it just wouldn't sleep. And then it was time for them to do, like, it was time for them to do their shift, and they just slept the whole time. It was a very lonely time. I'm glad I have my audio.
It's just really hard when your friends are out there laughing and you have to be sleeping. So I didn't do that. And yeah, I told them in advance. I was like, listen, I'm pretty useless. I don't know what to do on a sailing boat. And so I'm here for the fun. I'm here for the vibes. And when they were left on ship with me alone, I did bring my sleeping bag up and I would just conk out. But I would wake up if they needed me.
We never called. Yeah, we kind of had a general cadence to the day. And the person who just woke up is always like a little bit groggy. So it was always kind of like the rule, the person who was already awake would then kind of tend to that person a little bit. Can I get you some coffee? That kind of stuff. I did experiment with Gravol a little bit, but I'm pretty sensitive to Gravol because you're only sleeping for 4 hours, and Gravol turns out works on me for about 8. So when I got up, I remember waking up one time, and it was Levi's time to like take care of me, and I just wanted to throw him overboard. He was being so sweet, like, can I get you some coffee? Do you need some granola? I'm like, shut the fuck up. I just wanted to do my shift and be left alone. Another lesson learned. We brought a full fuel tank plus 2 jerry cans, and we were motoring about half the times when we had our engine on. And we had this whole problem with the wind coming up, and we needed to leave really well, so I forgot to fuel up. So we had a little bit of a fuel concern on the way back. We took a little bit slower of a time to get around Cape Race than we really should have. We really could have used the engine if we wanted, but I was really concerned about the fuel because I was distracted about this wind thing. But it ended up being fine. I think my concerns were bigger than the reality. Mm-hmm. But that's just kind of how it worked out. And yeah, whatever, dolphins again. We're sick of dolphins at this point in time.
Okay, Trevor and I were on shift together, and it's probably like 3 a.m. at this point, and we're kind of groggy, and it's dark. It's the middle of the night, and you don't have lights on. You have like your tiny little red light on, and we start hearing something in the water, and we were so scared. We were like, "It's a Loch Ness monster! What is it? It's a monster!" And like terrified. We're like, "Get the light! Get the light! Get the light! We have to see what it is." And we like peeked around, and it was dolphins. The dolphins came to say hi again, but we were very scared.
So yeah, 50 hours of sailing. This is what it looks like after a while. I think I was sleeping with my eyes open at this point in time. And Levi was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, right. I need to dock this boat. Right. So here we are in Renews. That wind did come. Yeah, we had a pretty windy couple of days. So we took our time just hanging out, watched Titanic, obviously. That was the right thing to do. And there's always inevitably, as we all know, whenever you pull up into a port, there's going to be some old guys that come up every time. None of us are old. These guys are. And they were like, what kind of engines in that boat? They say that all the time. And he brought us some cookies and some fresh fish. Always happens. And then we went ashore, and again, we're weird at this point. Ate our first meal in a restaurant. That was really fancy.
They were like, "Where do you want to sit? Like indoor?" And it was not that warm. We're like, "Can we actually sit outdoors? Like, I don't think we could be inside right now. Like, that sounds too scary. Can we be on the patio?"
I think at that point, Levi had the quote, was like, "This trip has been great and stuff, but it's going to be nice to hang out with normal people again." So we did cut our journey a little bit short. We didn't do the St. Pierre thing, which means we had 3 extra days of food and time off. We can do this whole thing in a day, but why? We weren't ready to come back to reality yet, so we took our time to come back. We are avid hikers. We've hiked the entire East Coast Trail, so it was really neat to take our time, put on our party outfits, and do a little tour of the East Coast Trail from the ocean side. So we usually hit the usual things. This is Port Kerman, the big sea arch. Not Port Kerman, what's that called?
La Manche?
Berry Head Arch, if anyone's hiked that. Thanks, Ari. And again, we are still dancing. Still dancing. We did come into Bay Bulls and also into Petty Harbor. Not that we needed to, but just because we wanted to. And who's hiked the Spout? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah. This is what it looks like from the water. Yeah. So we eventually rounded the corner and made our way back to St. John's. There it is. There's home. We were that happy to come in. We did, again, still dancing. There was a photographer who was up on Signal Hill that took our photo on the way coming in, and they found me on Facebook and sent it in. And we also have one of our friends do a quick little, go ahead for the next one, like a little time lapse of us coming in the harbor, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Very cool. There you go.
Yeah, our reflections on this time of trip is kind of always that like failing is not failing. Like we like to try hard. We like to try things that are going to be hard for us. We don't really care if we fail because we don't find it like failure. We're actually really, really, really good at bailing off of a climb, which is a skill. Like you have to know how to do that. It takes some route finding to get down. And as Trevor likes to quote from the show that he named his boat after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did rename the boat. It's no longer called Enchanté. I know it's a bit of a faux pas thing to do, but I'm not sorry. The boat is now called Firefly. Okay, after the TV show Firefly. Thanks, Max. There is a really cool quote in that show when 2 characters are interacting. One is looking to be a passenger on the ship, and the owner of the ship says, "Why don't you care where you're going?" And the prospective passenger says, "Because how you get there is the worthier part."
Yes.
And that's kind of how we view this trip. It didn't really matter what we did when we got there, but what we did along the way mattered so much more than actually getting to the top of this stupid cliff. So this is our crew. This was a real hug. That lasted for about 2 minutes. We just weren't ready to say goodbye to everyone, so then we went out and got tattoos together. This is the logo of Firefly. So this was Chris's first tattoo. He still hasn't told his dad yet. Yeah, so, all right, that was our trip. We do about one expedition every year. So next year we are going to Mexico.
This year.
This year. This is
December.
this year. This is
December.
already this year.
I know, it's already this year.
This year we're heading to Mexico. The climb that we plan on doing there is a lot easier than anything we've done the past 2 times, because the past 2 times we didn't get to the top, so we really need a win. So we're going to do something that's a little bit easier next time. And then after that, who knows? We'll see what happens with Trump. We might head back to Yosemite and try that again. We might go to Devil's Bay and try that again. And we've also talked about Madagascar. So we have the next 5 or 6 years well planned out for ourselves. So yeah, that's it. That's our presentation.
Yeah, thank you all for coming.
Thank you guys. I don't know what you guys are thinking when you came here, but I did not expect any of this. This is amazing, from the visuals that we have here, thinking, oh my God, what did they do with this? To the energy that you guys have put this presentation up, which is absolutely amazing. And it's always about the journey and never the destination.
Yeah.
You can apply that to anything. I think that's right. So I'd like to introduce somebody else here that's part of the engagement team, and it's really important to us here at the Royal Newfoundland Yacht Club that we've grown this engagement team to be available to members, new members, and to welcome anyone who comes through our doors. Jody Cook, if you'd like to come over, please. Jody is our new member engagement, and she's part of our engagement team. So we're growing that. Would you like to say a few words as engagement?
Just an honor and a privilege to be a part in your company. I watched every time you uploaded to Starlink. I've got a little bit of, I'm a little bit fan struck right now. Thatcher, to meet you in person. Trevor, I've had the honor of sailing with you, but I really, to enjoy your videos this summer was thrilling, and to really watch what you did, it's awe-inspiring. I'm so inspired to know I never want to do that. So, thank you. But Carol has been organizing a tremendous season of speakers and really interesting people who have done really interesting things, and that's the goal of the club this summer. So if you know anyone in your circle who fits this piece of the puzzle, please, by all means, come to Carol and myself, and we would love to put more of these on.
Yeah, thanks, Jody. And having us for members that are on the dock, anything you need to know, whatever, if you need help, whatnot. We have another engagement member. She's not here tonight. She's a volunteer on the engagement team, and it's a little transition period as well. So the engagement team is growing, which means we are more readily available to members, new members, helping anyone out, anyone that comes through our doors. And we're always welcome we have a ton. I won't get into our membership list, but we do have a lot of membership types, so you don't have to have a boat to be here. So anyhow, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for the turnout. Welcome to friends and family of Thatcher and Trevor, and of course our own members who always support anything and everything that we do. It's part of what we do here at the Yacht Club. So anyhow, it's Sunday night too. You're all out. We never do anything on a Sunday night. So look at you guys. You had didn't want to say you had nowhere else to go. You had a better place to go, which is here. So thank you for coming. Won't keep you on. I'm never allowed to talk for any longer than 5 minutes. So anyhow, thank you. Oh, by the way, Philip Pratt. We have another evening with Philip Pratt on May the 5th. You are not going. I would encourage, if you've not been here. Philip was here last year. We had an evening with Philip Pratt. Now we're having another evening with Philip Pratt because he's been 25 years abroad with his sailboat links. And he has over 25 countries. So much to say that he had to come back this year. So May 5th, keep that in your calendar. It'd be worth your while to come here. He's very entertaining, and he's a highly likable man. So, okay, thank you everyone for coming. Good night. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.